After a 10-year absence, Final Fantasy has returned to a Nintendo console with Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. The game is a hack-and-slash action RPG that has more in common with dungeon crawls like Baldur's Gate, Dark Alliance, and Diablo. The game is a Japanese-flavored take on the genre that contains a few weird gameplay elements and a unique multiplayer implementation. It's not for everyone, but Crystal Chronicles is both well-suited to its target audience and among the best games of its kind on the GameCube. Crystal Chronicles' thin storyline sends you traipsing and fighting through the game's fanciful world. The poisonous mist covers the land, kept at bay by large magical crystals. Each town has a giant crystal protecting its people, but the crystal's protective effect fades after 1 year and must be recharged with a substance called myrrh. Year after year, caravans roam the world collecting myrrh to keep their hometowns safe. You'll play the part of a valiant hero who's saving his or her village by questing for the myrrh trees, conveniently located at the end of each of the game's many action levels. Once you've collected enough myrrh to replenish your crystal's power, you'll return home to celebrate, visit your family, and prepare to start another year's journey. Crystal Chronicles' character creation routine may seem a little strange at first. You won't select your character class. Instead, you'll pick one of 4 tribes: the Clavats, Lilties, Ukes, and Selkies. You'll also select a family profession from jobs like blacksmith, merchant, tailor, and fisherman. To protect yourself from the poison miasma, you'll use the Crystal Chalice, a container used for myrrh collecting. In the single-player game, a Moogle carries this mystical bucket for you, but the multiplayer version of the game is Moogleless. Somebody in your party must carry the chalice, effectively disabling one party member as a fighting and spellcasting agent anytime the group is moving. At least it's easy to drop the bucket and join your comrades in battle when you run into enemies. Sometimes problems arise in the single-player game during the rare instances when your Moogle gets hung up on background scenery, or its more frequent fits of tiredness when it demands that you carry the bucket for a few minutes. Your character has an array of typical action RPG abilities: attack, defend, magic, item, and so on. You assign each action to command slots and then cycle through them one at a time, using the A button to perform whatever action is currently selected. In the single-player mode, it's merely inconvenient to switch to your on-screen menu to swap items and spells in and out of slots, but in multiplayer, it'll get you killed when you switch to your GBA to summon up more healing items while your on-screen character gets hacked to bits. You've probably heard a lot about Crystal Chronicles' multiplayer setup, which requires each player to use a Game Boy Advance and link cable to play the game. That's right, you can't play this game 2, 3, or 4-player using any GameCube controllers whatsoever. Granted, assembling a group of people each with a GBA and link cable is difficult, but at least Crystal Chronicles is a ton of fun to play with your friends. There are some minor changes to the gameplay between single-player and multiplayer. In the single-player game, for instance, you can fuse 2 spells together by putting them in adjacent command slots. To fuse spells in the multiplayer, you have to link up your spellcasting with other players and cast simultaneously. For example, 3 characters that cast Cure at the same time will produce a more powerful version called Curaga and heal everyone on the screen. The multiplayer game also breeds teamwork, as you'll happily drop a few hundred gold or hand over a rare item to a teammate if it means they can build a better weapon that will benefit the group. In multiplayer, all of your mucking around in menus is confined to the GBA screen, leaving the other players free to run around on the main screen. This interaction on the GBA is useful without feeling gimmicky. Playing Crystal Chronicles with friends becomes quite a vocal experience, as you yell for the bucket carrier to come back or count to 3 as you time your spellcasting. The game does have an extremely high learning curve in multiplayer, but once everyone in the game has a solid grasp of the way things work, you'll feel a strong sense of teamwork when you beat a tough boss or work your way through a dangerous puzzle together. Your character doesn't level up in the typical RPG style. Instead, you'll pick up artifacts during a level, but at the end you're allowed to keep only 1. These items carry upgrades like Strength +2 or gain another command slot. In the multiplayer version, players are rated based on various performance criteria, and this rating determines who gets first choice of the items. Though you can finish all of the game's action levels and move on to the final dungeon in 5 game years, you're free to play the existing levels repeatedly to power up your character and look for better items. Spend enough time with Crystal Chronicles and you'll see that its world has a beauty and cohesive design that not many games can equal. The characters possess expressive animations and the game moves at a consistently smooth frame rate. Crystal Chronicles' sound design and music are right in line with its visual aesthetics, which is to say that they're a little eccentric but fit right in with the tone of the game. Looking beyond the irritating quirks like the weird bucket mechanics and the expensive hardware requirements, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles is an entertaining action RPG with its own style and a fair amount of replay value. It doesn't exactly fit into the Final Fantasy series, but it's good enough to stand on its own, and it serves as a fitting return for Square to the Nintendo partnership that first brought them fame so long ago. For more information, consult the full text review.